Okay, imagine this for a second. A world where everything you do online, I mean everything, every search, every click, every message, every single purchase isn't just logged somewhere, but it's analyzed, it's used to build a profile of you, and maybe even controlled by groups you can't even see, let alone challenge. It's pretty chilling, right?
It really is.
Now get this. Imagine a group of people, decades ago, way back, who didn't just predict this exact future, but were actively building the digital shields to fight back against it. They were literally coding freedom into the internet before most of us even knew what the internet was.
Yeah, and that's not like some cyberpunk movie plot. That's the real story. The incredibly insightful history of the cypherpunks.
Absolutely. So welcome everyone to a deep dive into this fascinating world of the cypherpunks. And no, seriously, we're not talking about characters from a video game, even though their story sounds like it could be one. These were actual people, mathematicians, brilliant cryptographers, hackers in the original sense, visionaries. They quite literally coded freedom into existence.
Oh, yeah.
Their foresight was, well, it's just staggering when you look back.
It truly was. And what's so profound about their perspective is that their paranoia, quote unquote, it wasn't paranoia at all. It was, like you said, precise prediction.
Yeah.
They had this unique knack for looking at where technology was heading, how state power was likely to centralize, how corporations would inevitably want more data.
Right.
And this is the key part, they acted. They didn't just sit around worrying or writing academic papers. They built things.
Exactly. So our mission today is really to unpack how this movement, which kind of grew out of what we now call productive paranoia back in the late 80s, early 90s, how it didn't just offer abstract ideas. It laid the actual foundations, the code, for almost everything we rely on for secure digital life today. We're talking secure messaging apps, anonymous browsing tools, even, decentralized digital money like Bitcoin. So we're giving you a shortcut, basically, to understanding this sort of silent revolution, a revolution that fundamentally challenged the state's desire for control and, honestly, continues to shape our digital lives right now.
Yeah, it's an ongoing story.
It is. So we'll explore their philosophy, their incredibly accurate predictions, and the actual groundbreaking tools they created, tool by tool, to try and safeguard individual sovereignty in this new electronic age.
Okay, so let's dive into that genesis. Where did this all start? The cypherpunks, they weren't just, academics debating theories in an ivory tower, although there was definitely a lot of brain power there. They were this really unique mix, weren't they? Mathematicians, computer scientists, hackers, libertarians, a real melting pot.
That's such a key point. What really set them apart, I think, was their commitment to action.
Yeah.
Unlike, say, philosophers arguing about privacy ethics or politicians drafting laws that might never pass, these folks literally coded freedom. They got that in this new digital world, abstract ideas about liberty weren't enough. You needed working software.
You need the tools.
Exactly. Tools. They were building the future they wanted, line by line of code, instead of just hoping someone else would fix things. And you have to remember the context, right? This is early internet. Dial-up modems, clunky interfaces.
Barely graphical browsers for most people, if that.
Right. And these guys are already thinking decades ahead about surveillance states.
Yeah, and that commitment, that drive to build, it came from this almost uncanny foresight. They weren't just solving today's problems. They were actively building crypto tools to head off future threats. Things like mass surveillance, data mining, behavioral profiling stuff that sounds ripped from today's headlines. They were talking about it before the commercial internet really even took off.
It's wild.
Think about it. Most people were just excited about sending an email, maybe. And they're already mapping out the architecture of digital control we see now. It's like predicting, drone warfare when people are still using biplanes.
And this is where it gets kind of spooky, right? How accurate they were. This foresight links straight back to that idea of productive paranoia. Their paranoia was not paranoia, it was precise prediction. It wasn't some irrational fear. It was a really sharp, almost cold analysis of how power works, how governments and corporations would inevitably use these new digital tools for control, for profit. They didn't just think governments would try to control encryption, they knew it. Some had direct experience with early attempts.
And they acted on it, not by marching in the streets necessarily, but by writing code, by building defenses.
And tying into that was their core philosophy, right? This idea of digital self-ownership.
Absolutely central. They fundamentally believed that if you don't control your own information, your messages, your identity online, your money, then you don't really own yourself in this digital space.
It's an extension of sovereignty.
Exactly. Privacy wasn't a luxury for them or just, a nice to have. It was essential. A basic right extended into the digital world. If you can't control who sees your digital self, you're effectively, well, a digital serf, dependent on the platform owners or the state.
So they saw themselves as implementing these deep philosophical ideas, but practically in code for this new realm.
Right, because
Yeah.
the threats were becoming abstract, invisible, hard to fight with old methods.
And their prediction about privacy itself was pretty stark, wasn't it? They basically said it would become a distant memory unless people built the tools to protect it now.
Yeah, no ambiguity there. It wasn't about asking politicians nicely or waiting for regulations to catch up. They knew that wouldn't work or wouldn't be enough. Their approach was fundamentally different. It was like a declaration of digital independence, not a petition.
It was proactive, code-centric. Instead of lobbying for laws that, let's be honest, could be easily changed or ignored.
Or full of loopholes.
Right. They built tools that made privacy technically possible, almost technically inevitable in some ways, regardless of what the law said. It was a total shift from, please protect us, to, we will protect ourselves.
We will build our own protection. If a law is unjust, the code could just route around it.
And because of that mindset, that relentless focus on building, we can draw a direct line from them to so many critical technologies today. It wasn't just talk, it became the infrastructure. They really did plant the seeds for everything we have today. Bitcoin, Tor, Signal.
Yeah, the list goes on. These aren't just handy apps. They are the direct result, the legacy of that cypherpunk vision. A lot of people using them today probably have no idea they're standing on the shoulders of these digital pioneers.
Okay, so if we're talking blueprints, we absolutely have to talk about Eric Hughes and a Cypherpunks Manifesto.
Oh, definitely. 1993. That document, it wasn't just like a mission statement. It was foundational. It was a rallying cry that just laid out the core ideas of the movement with such amazing clarity and foresight. It basically drew the battle lines for a fight most people didn't even see coming yet.
And again, let's stress the timing. 1993, the web as we know it was, what, maybe a year old?
Barely. Mosaic browser had just come out.
Exactly. Most people didn't have email, let alone imagine a world of smartphones and constant tracking. Yet Hughes is writing this manifesto predicting stuff that's only now fully hitting us. It's almost unsettling how spot on he was, like someone describing social media addiction in, like, 1910.
For sure. And one of its most famous lines, which seems almost obvious now, but was radical then: privacy is necessary for an open society in the electronic age.
Seems straightforward today, doesn't it?
Right. But back then, framing it like that, not just desirable, but necessary for an open society online, that was profound. He was saying privacy isn't just about hiding things. It's a prerequisite for freedom of thought, for dissent, for creativity in this coming digital world. He established it as a fundamental right within this new tech framework.
And he wasn't vague about the threats either. He explicitly predicted mass surveillance, data mining, behavioral profiling.
Yeah, he nailed it.
He didn't just say governments might snoop. He pinpointed the specific, complex, data-driven methods that would be used. That's what's so stunning for the early 90s. Seeing these sophisticated forms of control before the tech to fully enable them was even widely deployed or understood. He saw the whole digital leviathan taking shape.
Which leads straight into the cypherpunk reasoning for why privacy wouldn't just be handed over willingly by governments or corporations.
Right, the power dynamic.
Exactly. The manifesto basically says, information is power. If you know everything about everyone, you control everyone. It's simple, brutal logic. Why would any powerful entity give up a tool that offers that level of control?
It's a zero-sum game, in their view.
Pretty much. Expecting them to voluntarily limit their own power is just naive about how power operates.
And that connects to this really chilling concept the sources mentioned, the digital panopticon.
Ah, yes. Bentham's idea.
Right, Jeremy Bentham's idea for a prison where a single guard could see any prisoner at any time, but the prisoners never knew if they were being watched, so they just had to assume they were being watched all the time.
Leading to self-censorship, self-policing, internalized control.
And the argument is that the digital world is the final realization of Bentham's panopticon, but digital. It's not just a prison anymore, it's society.
Yeah, it's everywhere. Every search, every post, every smart speaker listening, every location ping. It all feeds into this massive profile. Algorithms watch you, nudge you, predict you. You often don't even know you're being watched, but the potential for being watched is constant.
It creates this ambient sense of scrutiny.
Exactly. And the cypherpunks saw this architectural potential for control inherent in digital systems very, very early on, and they knew it needed a powerful antidote.
So what was the antidote? How do you fight this invisible, all-seeing digital eye?
The cypherpunk answer, the core strategy articulated right there in the manifesto, is blunt and powerful. Cypherpunks write code.
Not just a slogan.
Not at all. It's a call to arms.
Yeah.
The primary way to get digital freedom isn't through begging politicians or waiting for regulators. It's by building tools that make freedom a technical reality, regardless of politics.
They put their faith in math, essentially.
Absolutely, with an almost religious conviction. Strong cryptography, crypto, strong that not even the NSA can break, was seen as way better than any laws, constitutions, or promises from politicians.
Why? Because math is different.
Because math doesn't care about politics. It doesn't get lobbied. It doesn't change its mind. A strong algorithm just works. It protects information based on immutable principles. It's a shield made of pure logic.
That's a really powerful idea, elevating math above law.
Right.
But the manifesto also clarified what they meant by privacy, didn't it? It wasn't just about hiding.
Crucial point. Yes. It says, privacy is not secrecy. A private matter is something we don't want the whole world to know, but a secret matter is something we don't want anyone to know. Privacy is the power to reveal oneself selectively to the world.
That distinction often gets lost, right? Especially with the nothing to hide, nothing to fear argument.
Exactly. The cypherpunks hated that argument. It misses the point entirely. Privacy for them isn't about hiding wrongdoing. It's about autonomy, dignity, controlling your own identity, your own narrative.
Selective revelation.
Yes, that power to choose what parts of yourself you share, when, and with whom. That links directly back to self-ownership. If you can't control that selective revelation, you don't completely own yourself in the digital sphere. It's about keeping your agency in a world pushing towards total transparency, whether you like it or not.
Okay, so the manifesto lays out the philosophy, the call to action. How did this translate into actual conflict, actual tools? The first major battleground really centered around one piece of software and one incredibly determined individual.
We have to talk about Phil Zimmermann and pretty good privacy. PGP, launched in 1991.
PGP, still around today, remarkably.
It is, and back then it was revolutionary. This was powerful, military-grade encryption, not just for governments or big companies, but available freely to anyone. That just didn't exist before.
What drove Zimmerman to release it like that? It sounds inherently risky.
It was hugely risky. His motivation was pure cypherpunk. He saw governments, particularly the U.S. government, moving towards mandating backdoors in communications tech. He felt he was in a race against time.
He wanted to get strong crypto out before they could ban it or control it.
Exactly. Release the genie before they could put it back in the bottle.
Yeah.
He wanted to empower individuals before the state could legislate that power away. It was a preemptive strike using code.
And the government's reaction was predictable.
Oh, swift and severe. Exactly what the cypherpunks expected. The U.S. government immediately classified strong cryptography like PGP as military armament under ITAR, the International Traffic in Arms Regulations.
So code became a weapon.
Legally, yes.
Right.
That was the framework they used to try and control it. It wasn't just some minor regulatory issue. It was labeling the very tools of digital privacy as equivalent to exporting missiles or tanks.
Which meant Zimmerman was in serious trouble.
Deep trouble. He faced a 5-year criminal investigation. The charge: illegal export of munitions. Just because PGP was put on the internet where anyone globally could download it.
Wow.
It was a major showdown. The state wanting total surveillance capability versus an individual's right to secure communication. The future of digital freedom really hung in the balance right there.
And this wasn't happening in a vacuum, right? There was this other big threat looming, the Clipper chip.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
The Clipper chip. This was the NSA's big plan. They wanted to mandate these special chips be built into all digital communication devices, phones, computers, everything.
And these chips had a built-in backdoor.
Essentially, yes. The encryption keys would be held in escrow by the government. So they argued it was secure for users against other people, but the government would always have a master key.
So much for privacy.
None whatsoever, from the government at least. They pitched it as necessary for law enforcement, fighting terrorism, the usual arguments. But the implications were terrifying. Total, legally mandated surveillance potential. Your privacy would exist only at the government's discretion.
Which the cypherpunks fundamentally distrusted.
Completely.
But PGP kind of threw a wrench in those works, didn't it?
A massive wrench. PGP effectively destroyed that plan by making truly strong end-to-end encryption available to everyone without any backdoors.
Yeah.
And crucially, uncontrollably, it undermined the whole premise of Clipper. Why use a backdoored system when a secure alternative was freely available?
It shifted power back to the individual. Math beats mandate.
Exactly. It proved code could route around government control. A huge win for the cypherpunk idea of code over politics.
But Zimmerman still had the legal problem. The exporting munitions thing. How do you beat that? This is where it gets really clever.
Incredibly clever. The code is speech precedent. Facing these export restrictions on software, what did Zimmerman and his team do? They published the entire source code of PGP in a physical book, printed on paper.
A book? That's genius.
Utterly brilliant. Because now the legal argument shifted dramatically. A book isn't a munition. A book is text. Text is expression. Expression is protected speech under the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution.
So it wasn't a legal export anymore. It was just publishing a book.
Exactly. They basically hacked the legal system using its own rules.
Yeah.
It was a checkmate move against the export regulations.
And the impact of that.
Profound. The government eventually had to drop the investigation. But more importantly, it established this crucial legal precedent. Code is protected expression. Code is speech.
That's huge.
Massive. It didn't just save PGP. It opened the door for the entire open source software movement, especially around cryptography. It affirmed the right to write and share code, even powerful code, as a fundamental freedom. A landmark victory that paved the way for so much innovation that followed.
Okay, so PGP tackled secure communication. But what about anonymity? Knowing who is talking to whom can be just as revealing as the message content. This brings us to Tor, the onion router. And its origin story is, well, it's dripping with irony.
Oh, it's fantastic irony. Because Tor, which is now, a cornerstone tool for dissidents and privacy advocates worldwide, was originally developed and funded by the U.S. Navy.
The Navy? Why would they build something like Tor?
Well, they needed it for their own purposes. They needed a way for their agents, their intelligence assets, to communicate online anonymously, without giving away their location or identity.
Standard internet protocols just weren't secure enough for that.
Makes sense. But why release it publicly?
That's a brilliant or maybe accidental part. They quickly figured out a major problem. If only Navy agents were using this special anonymity network, it would be incredibly easy to spot them, right? Any traffic on the Tor network would be Navy traffic.
The anonymity set problem. You need a crowd to hide in.
Precisely. So their solution was counterintuitive but strategically sound. Release Tor to the public. Make it open source, encourage everyone to use it. The logic, as the sources say, was the more people using Tor, the harder it is to identify who is who.
So they created a digital haystack for their needles to hide in.
Exactly. It provided much better cover for their own personnel. But in doing so, they inadvertently gave this incredibly powerful tool for anonymity and censorship resistance to the entire world, including people who would use it to challenge state power.
And the cypherpunks, naturally, saw the potential immediately.
Oh, yeah. They jumped on it, embraced it, helped develop it further. They understood its significance right away. Tor quickly became, as one source calls it, the backbone of digital resistance.
For whom specifically?
For dissidents living under authoritarian regimes, for whistleblowers trying to leak information safely, for journalists investigating sensitive topics in dangerous places. Anywhere the internet was censored or monitored, Tor offered a way around it.
So it allowed people to build censorship-resistant networks.
Yes, and to communicate without permission. Think about that power. In places where visiting the wrong website or saying the wrong thing online could land you in prison, Tor was, and still is, a vital lifeline. It allows access to blocked information, secure communication, and protects users' identities from repressive governments. Its impact on human rights globally is hard to overestimate.
But like any powerful tool, it can be used for less noble purposes too, right? Which leads us to the darker side, or at least the more controversial side, of anonymity networks.
Yeah, the dual-use nature is unavoidable. Powerful tools empower everyone, for good or ill. And this brings us inevitably to the Silk Road.
And its creator, Ross Ulbricht, the Tread Pirate Roberts.
The Silk Road was this infamous online marketplace. It operated exclusively on the Tor network, so users and the site itself were anonymized, and it used Bitcoin for payments, adding another layer of pseudonymity.
And it was significant because
it was really the first large-scale demonstration of a truly free, stateless market operating online for several years. It handled billions of dollars in transactions for all sorts of goods, many illegal, completely outside of government control or regulation. It proved in a very visceral way that the cypherpunk vision of creating parallel, uncontrollable systems was actually possible.
But it did get taken down eventually. Was that a failure of Tor or Bitcoin?
That's the crucial point.
No. Yeah.
The sources are clear that Silk Road's downfall was due to operational errors by its founder, Ross Ulbricht, not a failure of the core technologies.
OPSEC mistakes.
Big time. Things like using his real name in early forum posts related to the project, accessing the server management interface from his home IP address without Tor enabled. Ricky mistakes, frankly, in that context. It highlights that even with the best cryptographic tools, human error, poor operational security is always the weakest link.
A stark reminder of that productive paranoia principle again. You can have the best tech, but you need to use it flawlessly.
Exactly. Tor worked. Bitcoin worked. The human element failed.
Okay, from secure messaging and anonymity, we now get to what many see as the ultimate expression, the real crown jewel of the cypherpunk vision, Bitcoin.
Yeah, Bitcoin really ties it all together in many ways.
And right at the heart of it, you have this figure, Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator, or creators maybe?
Still unknown.
Still totally anonymous, which is in itself perfectly cypherpunk, isn't it? The sources call it the cypherpunk definitive approach. Total anonymity, no leader, no figurehead, no single point of attack or control.
Absolutely. Satoshi's anonymity isn't just like a fun mystery. It's a core feature, a deliberate design choice, reflecting that deep cypherpunk distrust of central figures and authority. The person who created the world's first truly decentralized digital money made themselves decentralized, essentially. Vanished.
And that vanishing act, after Bitcoin was up and running and gaining traction, that's pure productive paranoia, right?
Textbook. Knowing that as Bitcoin grew, they would become the target. For governments, for hackers, for everyone. So Satoshi didn't trust anyone, not even himself, in a sense. They removed themselves entirely to protect the project, to ensure it remained truly peer-to-peer and couldn't be compromised by pressuring or attacking its founder.
Incredible discipline. But Bitcoin didn't just spring fully formed from Satoshi's head, did it? It built on earlier work.
Oh, absolutely. The Bitcoin white paper itself explicitly cites and acknowledges the work of earlier cypherpunks. Satoshi brilliantly synthesized decades of prior research, experimentation, and discussion that had been happening on the cypherpunk mailing lists and in related academic fields.
Like, who are the key influences?
Well, there's Wei Day. Back in 1998, he proposed something called B-Money. It was a concept for an anonymous distributed electronic cash system. Many of Bitcoin's core ideas are sketched out right there.
Okay.
Then you have Nick Szabo. Also around 1998, he came up with BitGold. This was another precursor, introducing ideas like using proof-of-work puzzles to mint digital currency and having a public registry of ownership, very much like Bitcoin's blockchain. He really focused on minimizing trust.
And wasn't there something called Hashcash?
Yes, Adam Back's Hashcash from 1997, originally designed to fight email spam by making senders do a little bit of computational work. That proof-of-work concept, the algorithm itself, became a critical component of Bitcoin's security model. It's what makes mining work and secures the network against attacks.
So Satoshi brought all these threads together.
Exactly. Bitcoin wasn't just a random invention. It represents decades of work culminating in decentralized digital money. It took these brilliant but maybe incomplete ideas and wove them together into a single, working, robust system. It was the moment the dream became reality.
And that reality, Bitcoin itself, it just screams cypherpunk ideals, doesn't it?
Through and through. Look at the core features. No central bank, no permission, no censorship. It's designed from the ground up to operate outside traditional financial controls. It gives you, the user, total sovereignty over your funds. No asking permission to send money, no intermediary who can block your transaction or freeze your account. It's a parallel financial system.
And that don't trust, verify motto seems baked right in.
Baked in at every level. Proof of work means you're not trusting validators based on reputation. You're trusting the computational work they demonstrably performed. The public blockchain means you're not trusting auditors. Anyone can download Ledger and verify every single transaction themselves. Total transparency of the ledger, yes. And the open source code means you're not trusting developers. You can literally read the code yourself or trust others who have to ensure it does what it says and doesn't have hidden backdoors or controls. It's all about removing the need for trusted third parties and replacing them with verifiable math and transparency.
So in a way, Bitcoin was the ultimate proof of concept for the cypherpunk movement.
I think so. It proved that the cypherpunks were right. It is possible to create systems that even states cannot control.
Mathematics beats brute force. The sheer amount of computing power needed to break Bitcoin's cryptography or overwhelm the network consensus is astronomical. It demonstrated that you could build a digital fortress based purely on math and distributed consensus, one that resists censorship and control in a way nothing before it ever could.
So bringing this all forward, what are the big lessons from the cypherpunk legacy for us right here, right now, living in this world they predicted?
Well, the first one, we keep coming back to it, but it's crucial. Their paranoia was not paranoia, it was precise prediction.
We need to take that seriously.
We really do. They saw the direction things were heading with digital tech and power, and they were largely right. That same dynamic of control versus freedom is playing out even more intensely today. Their foresight is still incredibly relevant.
And the second big lesson, maybe the most empowering one, is that idea that code is more powerful than politics.
Yeah, that's a powerful takeaway. While laws and regulations matter, the cypherpunks showed that building working tools, open source tools that empower individuals, can achieve freedom in ways that lobbying or political processes often can't, especially when you're up against powerful interests.
Code can create facts on the ground that politics has to react to rather than the other way around.
Exactly. A strong piece of globally distributed code can sometimes just bypass or nullify a restrictive law in the digital realm.
Which leads to where we should place our trust, or maybe our lack of trust. The cypherpunks were adamant. Cryptography is the only reliable defense against digital tyranny.
They really believe that. Why? Because math, unlike laws or constitutions or politicians' promises, doesn't bend. It doesn't get reinterpreted easily. It doesn't have loopholes if designed correctly.
It's impartial.
Impartial, incorruptible. Strong crypto provides a defense based on mathematical certainty, not on the goodwill or fleeting promises of those in power. It's a shield you can rely on because its properties are verifiable.
And all this points towards a pretty radical idea for individuals. Radical self-sovereignty.
It's a call to action, really.
Yeah.
You need to be your own bank, your own security provider, your own infrastructure. It sounds intense, maybe, but it's about reclaiming control in a world that increasingly wants to manage and monitor every aspect of your digital life for you.
It connects back to that core idea of self-ownership, doesn't it? If you don't control your keys, your data, your money, then someone else does.
Precisely. And their interests might not align with yours. So becoming more self-sovereign digitally is about taking back that agency.
Okay, so practically speaking, what does that mean for someone listening right now? How do you become more digitally self-sovereign?
Well, the sources suggest starting by learning to use the tools that embody these cypherpunk principles. Things like PGP or more modern equivalents like GPG for encrypting your emails. Using Tor for anonymous browsing, especially if you need to bypass censorship or protect your location.
What about money?
Using Bitcoin, but specifically without KYC, know your customer requirements if possible. Using non-custodial wallets where you control your own private keys. That maintains the financial privacy aspect that was so important.
And for messaging?
Using end-to-end encrypted messaging apps like Signal. These are the kinds of tools readily available now that descend directly from the cypherpunk efforts. Learning to use them effectively is step one.
But there's a deeper call to action too, isn't there, beyond just using the tools?
Yes. Perhaps the most fundamental call from the cypherpunk legacy is learn to program. Remember, cypherpunks write code wasn't just a cool slogan. It was the core methodology.
So it's about understanding how this stuff works, maybe even contributing.
Exactly. Even basic coding literacy helps you understand the systems you rely on. And for those who go further, writing code is an act of resistance in this context. You're building the tools that empower people, that create alternatives, that bypass control structures. You're turning the philosophy into working reality.
You become an architect, not just a user.
Precisely. You're helping build the defenses, create the parallel systems that keep options open, and resist total centralization.
And we need those defenses because this fight, it's definitely not over, is it?
Far from it. The digital leviathan the cypherpunks warned about is constantly evolving, constantly finding new avenues for control. We're facing huge challenges right now that need exactly these kinds of cryptographic defenses.
Like what? What are the current battlegrounds?
Well, central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, are a big one. Governments worldwide are exploring them. They can offer efficiency, sure, but also potentially unprecedented surveillance and control over your money. Imagine programmable money that can be restricted
or transactions tracked in real time, or funds frozen instantly based on social behavior.
That's terrifying.
It is. Then you have digital identity schemes, potentially linking everything you do online and offline to a single government-controlled ID. Great for convenience, maybe, terrible for dissent or anonymity. Add social scoring systems, which are already happening in some places, pervasive biometric surveillance, the looming threat of quantum computing breaking current encryption.
The list is long.
It is. It's a continuous battle. On one side, you have states and corporations pushing for more data, more control, often framed as security or progress. On the other side, you have the legacy of the cypherpunks. Mathematicians with algorithms, privacy advocates, developers building open-source tools, and crucially, informed individuals like you, the listener, who choose to use these tools and understand what's at stake. Hashtag, tag, tag, outro, outro.
Wow. So we've covered a lot of ground, from that initial, almost prophetic vision of the early cypherpunks, through the foundational ideas in the manifesto, to the actual tools, PGP, Tor, Bitcoin, that became the weapons in their fight for digital freedom. They weren't just thinkers. They were builders. They saw what was coming and gave us the means to push back.
They really did. And maybe the thought to leave everyone with, something that kind of synthesizes that productive paranoia and the don't trust, verify ethos, is this. In a world of near-total surveillance, paranoia isn't a pathology, it's basic mental hygiene. So encrypt everything you can, trust no one implicitly. Always verify for yourself. It's almost like a mantra for navigating the digital age safely.
That's a powerful way to put it. Mental hygiene. Okay, so for you listening, think about your own digital life. What tools are you using right now to protect your own digital freedom, your sovereignty? Are there small steps you could take? Maybe learning more about PGP or Signal, trying out Tor, understanding how Bitcoin works without intermediaries. How might you start to, metaphorically or literally, write code in your own life? We really encourage you to dig deeper into these ideas.
Because being informed, being proactive, it's never been more critical. Your digital self, your autonomy online, it's incredibly valuable, maybe the most important asset you have going forward. And the cypherpunks, thankfully, left us a pretty good map for how to defend it.
Absolutely. So if this deep dive resonated with you, if you feel that little spark of productive paranoia yourself, maybe share it with someone else. Every single person who becomes more aware, who takes even small steps to reclaim their digital sovereignty, that's a win. That strengthens the network for everyone.
Couldn't agree more.
Until next time, stay sovereign, stay curious, and keep building.